Number 11. NATO is the largest and most powerful military alliance in history, and one of its primary goals is to protect the people and territory of its member countries. The cornerstone of NATO is known as collective defense, which means that if one NATO ally is attacked, then all of the NATO allies are attacked. The great part is that it actually works. Over the last 60 years, NATO has served as an anchor for world security. It has helped to keep the peace in Europe, and it has bound the US, Canada, and European allies together in a way that has been fundamentally stabilizing for a peaceful world order. Number 10. NATO plays an important role in fighting radical extremism. We didn't want to use the T word up here because we don't want a strike from YouTube, but you know what we mean. Radical extremism poses a direct threat to international stability, prosperity, and security. NATO has contributed more than 13,000 personnel to train the local forces in Afghanistan and the neighboring countries. The organization is also a member of the Global Coalition to Defeat ISIL, and it works to develop capabilities to more effectively anticipate and respond to threats, as well as disrupt day-to-day activities of these extreme groups. These efforts preclude radical extremists from forming a safe haven in the region. Oh snap! I just said the word of the day, preclude. Preclude means prevent from happening. Good synonyms are inhibit and impede. See if you can use preclude in a sentence in the comment section below, and we'll feature the person with the most creative phrase in our next video. Number 9. NATO has taken on the important role of international crisis management. Since the Cold War, it has been a key force in mitigating crises around the world. From 2009 to 2016, NATO launched Operation Ocean Shield, which is even more badass than it sounds. NATO sent warships to counter the rising problem of piracy off the coast of Africa. The effort is still ongoing as NATO and African countries work to eradicate piracy and capture the elusive Jack Sparrow. Additionally, NATO has been active in assisting with the refugee crisis in Europe. Europe has been facing the greatest migrant crisis since the end of the Second World War, and it's being fueled by human trafficking and criminal networks. Using intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, NATO is contributing to international efforts to stem this illegal trafficking. Pop quiz, hotshot! Do you know what the letters in NATO actually stand for? See if you can guess the correct answer in the comments below, and stay tuned till later on in the video to see if you're right. Number 8. NATO's role as a leader in disaster relief efforts is one that has proven critical over the last few decades. Here in the US in 2005, Louisiana was hit hard by Hurricane Katrina. On September 4th, the United States government requested NATO relief support in the form of food and medical supplies to cope with the devastating aftermath of the hurricane. From September 12th to October 2nd, NATO flights delivered 189 tons of relief goods to the areas that were in dire need. Also in 2005, NATO provided aid in the wake of the Kashmir earthquake, which struck Pakistan with devastating tremors that reached 7.6 on the Richter scale. NATO accepted the request from the Pakistani government for assistance, and it dispatched in total 3,500 tons of relief supplies, as well as medical teams and engineers. And because all good riding comes in threes, back in April of 2000, there were unusually high temperatures and heavy rain in the mountains of northwest Romania. This resulted in the flooding of the river basins in that region. Over 1,000 people lost their homes and had to be evacuated. NATO swooped in and really saved the day by providing 2 million sandbags and over 1,000 tons of diesel fuel. Number 7. There's a new type of war that is being fought across the globe. Cyber attacks are becoming more common, more sophisticated, and more damaging. The nature of these attacks poses a challenge. It is often difficult to know who has attacked you, or even if you've been attacked at all. And the culprits vary from governments to criminal gangs to radical groups. Due to the intensity and proliferation of cyber attacks, NATO has made cyber defense a top priority. What's interesting is that NATO now considers cyberspace as an operational domain, just like land, sea, or air. And just like any of these other domains, an attack on one NATO member is an attack on all NATO members. NATO shares information about technological threats in real time with its members. They have cyber rapid reaction teams on standby to assist allies 24/7 and provide research and training to help participants bolster their cybersecurity defense. Oh, didn't see you there. Hope you're liking the video. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe. That way you won't miss any of our newest content and it'll help other people to find the channel. You're great. Number 6. What membership in NATO offers to America is the promise that the country will not have to fight alone in a large-scale conflict. This provides the US with a certain level of confidence that it can operate in a multinational setting with diverse allies. These allies not only bring military capacity, but also political weight to whatever challenges our country faces. For example, on 9/11, every NATO ally stood with the US as though each and every one of them had been struck. After the attack, NATO launched into its largest ever and longest ever combat operation in Afghanistan. NATO is currently leading a non-combat mission to train, advise, and assist the Afghan security forces and institutions. According to NATO, this enduring partnership between the organization and Afghanistan provides a framework for wider political dialogue and cooperation in the enduring fight against radical extremism. Number 5. NATO is an alliance of 29 countries that mostly border the North Atlantic Ocean. It includes the United States, most of the members of the European Union, Canada, and Turkey, which is like the Ringo Starr of the group. The founding members of NATO formed the organization on April 4th, 1949. NATO's stated mission was to protect the freedom of its members from threats by communist countries. The United States also wanted to maintain a presence in Europe after the Second World War. The NATO alliance allowed the US military to provide European nations with the protection that they needed to rebuild and eventually form the European Union. Number 4. During the Cold War, NATO's mission expanded to prevent nuclear escalation. Once West Germany joined NATO, many of the communist countries formed their own alliance, which was known as the Warsaw Pact. This included the Soviet Union, Hungary, Romania, Czechoslovakia, and East Germany. Nuclear tension was high for about 30 years. Glad I missed out on that one. NATO adopted a massive retaliation policy. It promised to use nuclear force if any of its members were attacked by the nations in the Warsaw Alliance. Fortunately, the threat of mutually assured destruction was attenuated in 1989 with the economic collapse of the Soviet Union. Classic communism. Number 3. NATO's headquarters is located in Brussels, Belgium. It serves as its political and administrative center. More than 5,000 meetings between representatives from member countries, as well as civilians and military experts, are held there annually. What's unique about NATO is that all of its decision-making is done by consensus. Instead of simply voting for a motion and having the majority of the group get their way, in consensus decision-making, the group needs to find a solution that all 29 members support, or at least one they can all tolerate. These are called NATO decisions. It's answer time! So what does the acronym NATO actually stand for? It's the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. There you go, use that at your next party. Number 2. How does a country join NATO, you ask? Well, it's pretty straightforward. One of the founding principles of NATO is its open door policy. Any country in the Euro-Atlantic area is free to join if it's prepared to meet the standards and obligations of membership. It needs to contribute to the security of the alliance, and of course, share NATO's values of democracy and rule of law. Since 1949, NATO's membership has grown from 19 to 29 countries. Number 1. Collective defense requires collective spending. Every NATO member contributes to a direct budget, roughly $1.4 billion for the military budget and $250 million for the civilian budget. Overall, the US provides about 22% of this budget based off of a formula that accounts for the national income of the Allies. Outside of the direct budget, NATO members came to an agreement in 2014 that each member would increase their own defense spending to 2% of their respective gross domestic product. Few countries have met that target, a fact that has attracted the ire of America's 45th president. Today, the future of NATO seems unclear, as the current US president increasingly criticizes NATO while fostering a stronger relationship with Russia. Many are wondering if the organization is viable without American leadership, and if it may be on the road to becoming obsolete. Thank you for watching. Hope you liked the video. Do you think that NATO is obsolete? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and check back soon for a new video. Bye-bye.